So today I'm going to be talking about your paint materials. And by materials, I'm talking primarily about the actual, the pigment, the kind of paint that you use. And also I'll have a little small thing, a little segment on, and this relatively short video I'll take and talk about brushes just briefly too. And so what happened, what happened a long time ago, I stepped out, had been studio trained by a professional out of Chicago, commercial artist had trained me in the studio, and I stepped outside and started painting outdoors. And while I was painting outdoors, I began using a Pochade Box, and it's a neat little setup for people that haven't seen one before. It's got a canvas up in the top here you can paint with, and it's got of course, this is the palette, and then this lifts up. Let's see if I can do this. It lifts up, and you've got your paints in here, and I've got one brush, but anyway, you can put more brushes in there and everything. It's compact, pretty snazzy for working outdoors. And it's got on the bottom, it's got a place you can mount it on a tripod, and it's just, it fits in a backpack, and it's just a great solution. Well, anyway, I'm painting outdoors with this thing. And what happened was, I'm just getting slaughtered. I'm trying to do these outdoor paintings, and I mean, it's just not working. And so I went back, I went back and talked to my instructor, and I said, listen, this is what's happening. And he said, well, here, let's see what's going on. And so we went ahead and set the Pochade Box up in the studio, and he started using this paint this off-brand paint that I'd used to load the box with. And he says, my God, he says, this paint's got no guts. There's no tinting strength, is what he meant by that. And he says, here, let me just, and he went ahead and he got some other paint that actually he had some small tubes. I was impressed. He had some other small tubes, and we got rid of the off-brand stuff and put in the stuff that he recommended at the time that was professional grade, put those in there. And so that took care of that. But he said something that I never forgot that day. He said, listen, he said, you have to understand that there are going to be days that you're going to get up on the wrong side of the bed and you're just going to have a bad day. It's just how it's going to go. And he says, you can't always control that. And he said, so you'll have up days and down days and whatever. But he says, if you have a bad day, and you're still painting and whatever, he said, especially on days like that, he says, you don't want your materials to beat you. Don't let your materials beat you. He says, always get the best materials that you can buy, because they'll serve you even on a bad day. And of course, I've never forgot that. And after he went ahead, we replaced the paint in my Pochade Box, went out, and the next day or two started painting. Man, what a difference. So I was able to achieve the effects and produce the results I wanted with a whole lot less effort, just because I had some good materials. So what a great lesson for me. So that is it on that. For those that are curious, the kind of the paint that I use Utrecht paint, and the display is mirrored, so you can't read it. It's kind of backwards. But I use Utrecht, and this is actually a 150 milliliter tube, and then this is a 37 milliliter tube. This is you can see the difference in size. This is almost exclusively what I buy because I go through so darn much paint. But most people, of course, would end up picking that up. But they do. I would say Utrecht also has a student grade paint. This is the professional grade, of course, that I'm using. So that's what I'm using. And by the way, you don't have to. They're not paying me for this. They're not supporting me on this. I'm just letting you know what I happen to use. So I'm not. They're not sponsoring this at all. But I'm using Utrecht, and it doesn't have to be Utrecht. It could be Old Holland, which is a great manufacturer of professional paint. It could be Williamsburg, which is a high-grade paint. I've heard great things about Gamblin. I haven't personally used it, but I hear Gamblin is a great paint. And there are others too, I'm sure. But the point is, just get yourself something that has some horsepower to it. Get a professional grade paint. And as an example, just to speak just a little bit more about this, if you take student grade paint, which has more filler in it, if you take student grade paint and you squeeze out a little line of student grade paint, and you take the same color and you get professional grade paint, and by the way, it could be by the same manufacturer. So you get student grade paint and you get professional grade paint, and you take and you squeeze out the same line, same distance with a professional grade paint, and then you have the same quantity of white. So line, line, white, white, and then you take and you mix those together, and take a palette knife and you start to run that out. You take and you mix it and then spread that out on your palette. You'll be amazed at the tinting strength, the power that the professional grade paint has in comparison to the student grade, because it doesn't have that same filler in it. And what you'll find, yes, the professional grade paint is more money, but you're going to find that it also goes farther. It's you'll end up using less paint to achieve the same results. So you might find that it's really not a lot more money in the end because of that. So lastly, I'm going to talk about brushes. As I mentioned, I would, and this is, so I've got a whole nother video on brushes, so I'm not going to spend too much time on this. So this is a Princeton, and this is a size 6, and the bristles on this are synthetic. And I use, as far as synthetics go, I use Princeton almost exclusively. You don't have to. I'm just telling you what I use. So this happens to be this is a bright, which I use. My other video talks about that as well. I use brights almost exclusively. That's just a personal preference. So this is called a Dakota, and this happens to be a 6300B, in case you're curious about that. And this is a silver Grand Prix, and silver is the Silver Brush Company. And this is, of course, they're both the same size. They're both 6s. But this is 1002. Excuse me, 1002. It's a 1002 bright. And this is natural. These are natural bristles. This is hog hair, and this is just a great brush. And in fact, outdoors, this is almost exclusively all I use outdoors are these silver Grand Prix. They're just a fabulous brush. And again, these guys are not paying me. They're just great products, and I'm happy to go ahead and tell people about them. So anyway, that's it. That's my short little video on don't let your materials beat you. Hopefully that helps. My name's Chris Mummert. Thanks for watching.